right, good morning and welcome once again to channel 196 on on Star Times, Cool TV. It's a Monday morning, and for me, I believe everybody is up and doing because it's a brand new working week. Election 2015, stay or go home after voting. Stay or go home after voting. APC and INEC versus the instruction of the IGP, Mr. Sulaiman Abba. The Inspector General of Police, Sulaiman Abba, on Thursday warned voters to go back to their homes after casting their votes on election day while addressing accredited observers for the general elections. He said the possibility of committing electoral offense was very high if voters stayed back at the polling booths for votes to be counted. We will go on to protect the electorate. Every eligible voter should feel safe enough to cast his votes. He will be there. He said, we will be there to protect the votes and make sure no one disrupt the process. Cast your vote and go and cool down at home, says the IGP. If you remain there, there is likelihood that you will commit an offense. And then APC came a few days ago to say, in agreement with INEC, the All Progressive Congress, APC, has told Nigerian voters to ignore the unlawful order of the Inspector General of Police, urging them to go home after casting their ballots during the forthcoming elections. The National Publicity Secretary, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, said the electorate should rather listen to INEC Chairman, Professor Atairu Jega, who said the electoral law does not state anywhere that voters cannot or should not wait to watch and ensure that their votes are counted. APC said, contrary to the suspicion directive by the IGP, INEC encourages voters to stay behind and watch their votes counted, but ensure it is done in an orderly manner. According to Jega, who appeared on Channels TV a few days ago, says that the electoral law says anyone that has no business with the electoral process at the polling booth but desires to monitor events should stay at least some meters away from the polling agents and completely away from the ballot box after casting their votes. Good morning, lady and gentlemen. I have these very wonderful people on the show today, as usual. Ishama is on the show. Ishama, how are you?
I'm very fine, thank you. Good morning, Nigerians, and you're welcome to the show.
How was the weekend? Short,
amazing.
Beautiful. You look restful.
Amazing.
Amazing, good.
Because if I begin to give you details, I think we'll still be here till
tomorrow.
No,
spare me the details. All right, we have someone joining us in the studio, and we'll be doing the show together. He is a political analyst. He is someone that I have had opportunity to work with very closely. And I'm going to leave him to quickly tell us about himself so that you will know him. And then we can take the show off from there. All right, please tell Nigerians who you are. On this show, we just want that emphasis.
Well, I'm surprised about the emphasis.
A lot of Nigerians, they recognize your voice,
yes.
But not your facial outlook.
Well, my name is Achike Chude. I'm an interested Nigerian. I want to believe I'm a humanist. I believe in the equality of all men, regardless of creed, religion, ethnic leaning, ethnic inclination. We're all one. If you look at all the international conventions on people and human rights, for instance, Africa, the United Nations Declaration of Convention on Human Rights, it starts with the creed, all men are born equal. And this is something I'm very passionate about, and that has also informed some of the things I have also done. I'm an entrepreneur. I have weighed in variously on national issues, hopefully with the intention that when we add our voices to the myriads of voices out there that are asking for a better Nigeria, that perhaps one of these days we'll be able to, achieve that. I am the Deputy Chairman of the Joint Action Front. The JAF is one of the foremost, civil society organizations in this country. Very unique in the sense that it is closely affiliated with the labor unions in this country. I'm also the media officer of the Justice Development and Peace Commission, JDPC, and Lagos Archdiocese. It's an organization, civil society organization of the Catholic Church that has been very much involved in the electoral process in this country. In fact, has contributed the single highest number of observers in the country, over 45,000, all over the country since 1999 and so on. You know, so, well, we constantly agitate, like I said, for a better Nigeria. I write too. I've done a few articles in some national newspapers, and I'm hoping that in the next few months, something I would have achieved a passion that I've been working on for some time, being an author. And so I should have a book out.
Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully, a novel.
Now, do you think I could have done that better? And that was why it was necessary for Mr. Achike Chude to do that introduction. But quickly, let's go on the show. It promised to be a very interesting one, and I believe all the people who are watching us at home are ready to be a part of this show. Achike, I need to ask you this question. Are we ready for 2015 elections? Are we ready? Do you think we're ready, considering security, considering the preparation of INEC, considering the electorate, considering all the necessary trappings that we need to put in place to ensure that we have a transparent, credible, free, fair elections? Do you think we're ready?
We're ready for an election.
Oh, but you are not sure the quality of the...
No. We are. I think you deliberately, picked on that. We are ready for an election. With regards to every single ingredient that is needed to have a very successful election, I do not think so, but you can talk about the degree of success of the election. And I think that is what we've had since 1999. We've never had any, perfect, you can't have a perfect election, but if you're talking about grading the election on the basis of percentage, for instance, you could say, well, maybe we had 60%, 50%, and so on from maybe 1999 till date. You ask yourself, that's the only way you can do a comparative analysis. How ready are we? Perhaps maybe 70%, ready to have an election that is fairly credible, fairly free, and so on. I do not think from 1999 till date we have had a very, very free, election and credible election in this country.
Even 2011?
No, even 2011. Do not forget that there was a large disparity, for instance, between, INEC talked about that, from within that period, the Anambra election and some of the other elections we had, in terms of even voter turnout, in terms of the voters register and all the controversies that characterized all of those things. You see, it's not, an election is a process, and an election is not what happens just on election day. But the entire process, it's divided into three aspects, elements. For instance, you have the pre-election, practices, the pre-election processes. You have, the election proper itself, and then you have the post-election also, and so on. All of these things constitute one element, but there are three, ingredients that make up this particular element. And in all of these things, we have had some, inconsistencies in the way the process has actually gone on. So we cannot really talk about, even in 2011, we had disparities. Do not forget that in 2011, before then, Yar'Adua had come to power and had also talked about inconsistencies in the election that brought him to power. Then the president, Jonathan, came in, Iwu had been removed and so on. And so whatever damage people feel Iwu might have done is not something that would have been, that would have disappeared overnight. Jaga came in to try to clean the audience table, also had issues. Because not too long ago, some of the elections we had, for instance, in Warri, and again, the same Anambra State, there were gross irregularities that took place in those elections, but perhaps not enough to vitiate the entire election process itself. So in 2011, it wasn't fantastic. 2015 will not be too dramatically different, except that, this time around we have the PVC that has caused so much controversy that makes this particular election very unique.
But do you think
different.
the PVCs can give us, to a high-level, credible elections?
Well, the PVCs, if they have worked in other countries, and this is the argument I have always made all this while, if they have worked in countries like Ghana, Sierra Leone, and others, and so on, then you would quarrel with the technology if it's not the same PVC technology that we're having. It is the same technology that was used in those countries, to bring about successful elections that are going to be deployed in Nigeria. So what's going to be different? I think the only thing that will be different are the human beings. You understand, who are
And
now
the way
going
we
to
accept
and the way we
the new-
accept exactly, who are now going to run this election. We had human beings in Ghana and Sierra Leone and other places who ran the election with the same technology. You understand? So I do not see that there will be very, very remarkable difference, or except the human beings themselves.
Okay,
are the ones that
Chike,
would frustrate
I need to ask you this question. We have talked about, oftentimes when you watch programs and you see people really talk about the Nigerian elections, especially, as it borders around the 2015 elections, the postponement, the lack of preparedness of INEC supposedly before the postponement, and then all efforts that have been geared towards ensuring that we have a credible election, the improvements on the distribution and the collection of the permanent voters card. You as an individual, being an analyst, you've been around, you have seen it all. As a matter of truth, what would you do differently? What would you suggest, that is done differently, considering security matters, considering INEC, considering, even the people, because that was the last thing you said. What do you think should have been corrected or done differently to make us really have a clear, election this year?
Well, for JEGA, for INEC itself, I would expect that if I were the one, I would have started much earlier, especially with regards to the PVCs.
Anyway, we'll be going on a short break now, and then when we come back, we'll be looking at the voting process in itself. Should we go home after we have done our voting, or we should wait at the polling centers to witness the counting, knowing fully well that INEC has put in place the hard hoc staff, and all the necessary people that are supposed to carry out the counting and all the other part of the elections. When we come back, we'll be looking into this very closely. We'll be right back. We are back. This is still Crossfire, and we've been discussing about the state of the nation as it borders around the elections in 2015. The presidential elections comes up as planned. That was what the president said yesterday. 28th of March is the presidential elections in Nigeria, and that date is very sacrosanct. In the mind of all Nigerians, we're looking forward to a very free, fair, transparent, and credible elections. And by the April 11th, we would have the gubernatorial elections and the House of Assembly elections, all in 2015. We have Chude Achike with us in the studio. And we will be looking at a couple of issues. Before we went on a short break, you were trying to answer the question on, about security and all of that. What do you think the government should have done differently?
Yes, I think just like I was saying that if I were JEGA, I would have started early preparations and so on. The reality is that this security issue became much more problematic because the government was not proactive enough. The government did not have the proper response, for that for quite some time. And we cannot accept the reason that at a particular time when the stability of the Nigerian nation was being threatened, that we did not have enough weapons, to counter the insurrection. This Boko Haram thing has been on for about 6 years. The president has been in power, with Yaradua 2 years, and then another 2 years or so. By the time he moved from acting president to substantive president, and then 4 years of his presidency. So the president has spent about 8 years as president. Some of the things that he's doing now, he should have done long before now. Do you understand? At a time, it would appear that they were not really on top of the situation, and they allowed this issue to fester, get to a level where it became almost difficult to contain, and embarrassed the nation and the entire people of this country. You understand? Also embarrassed the military establishment in Nigeria before you now see this response now, within 6 weeks, we want to do this, we have to do this, and so on. And the reality is that what they are doing is that they are, conventionally, they are taking on some of these people, moving them out of, certain places.
Okay. Before we move on to the main issue for the day, now, earlier on you mentioned some certain elements, and on pre-election practices, do you think, so far with what we're seeing currently on ground, do you think we'll witness high voter turnout or low voter turnout?
Well, it depends. Usually in some elections, we've had voter turnout as low as 22%, for instance, like in Anambra State and so on,
What really contributed to that? Just apathy?
Well, there are issues. Apathy, essentially one of that. You see, it got to a level where Nigerians no longer believed in these people. In fact, that is the way they describe them, these people. You understand? They just realize that they are not their friends. So whatever they do, that's the belief. They don't have the interest. Whatever they do will never be in their interest. And whatever they do at the polling booth in terms of voting will never translate into the right candidate being voted for and so on. So that tends to, put them...
Discredit the process.
And then discourages them from coming out to vote and so on. But I would tell you that from 1999 to date, about 60 years right now, we have never had an election, especially at the center, that is as close as we have now. We have not had the kind of polity being heated up as much as it has been heated up, because the possibility of victory going either way is extremely high. That is why you have seen the politicians in full flight when it comes to the issue of desperation and their ability to do anything. Look at the violence that is happening in some other places. Rather than discourage people from coming out to vote, I think people are more propelled. For those who believe that they need a change in this country cannot continue like this. That who believe that, look, we are suffering, we cannot continue, we must make a change, they are going there. Right. For those who believe that transformation, you understand, is working, and so on and so forth, they would also go there. And then those people who also try to be objective and who will vote on the basis of what they truly perceive to be the situation on ground in this country, they will all meet at the polling booths, and I think that will translate.
All right, let's move on here. I mean, I haven't said that. Now, the Inspector General of Police, Sulaiman Abba, came out very strong to say that voters should not wait around their polling booths or polling centers or the units where they probably have casted their votes.
Or else.
And that they should go home. Anyway, he didn't say that.
Good.
But what he said was that, okay, to allow for peace and to minimize the possibility of anybody committing an electoral violence, that people should go home, cast your vote and go home. One, don't forget that voters are not supposed to monitor and manage the electoral process in any ward.
But they are supposed to protect their mandate.
Yeah, but by waiting in the booth,
by ensuring
by waiting in the polling centers,
by ensuring that the votes that they cast would be announced.
How will that be done? How do you think that
that will be
you understand?
Could that be another
no, it's
factor?
not about snatching now. Is no longer so much an issue because of the nature of voting right now. This particular.
Now let's establish this, Achike. You want people to stay back.
It's not about me wanting people to stay back. It's about what the law permits. It is about the exercise of the franchise of the people. And that the exercise of the people's franchise does not end in just the people casting the vote.
No, but it does not in any way extend to them becoming part of are they umpires? They are not umpires. Voters are not umpires for the election.
Yeah, but they
process.
are the major, stakeholders.
I understand the position of the electorate.
Is about the people.
I understand the position of the electorate, but the truth about it is that, considering the present security state in the nation, if the Inspector General of Police is coming out strong to make a statement,
I had asked a question when you were quoting the Inspector General of Police. I had said, or what?